590 KXSP Omaha's ESPN Radio. It's time for the Front Stretch, brought to you by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Online at joeskarting.com.
Thank you for joining us this morning on the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Bookings, prices, and hours are all located online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K, or give them a call at 712-256-5278. Bud, it's just you and me this morning. Our yuppie Dan Taylor has not showed up.
I think he got stuck out somewhere by some lake by the name of Lake I Care with a certain little missus, which will remain nameless, you know. But he took a vacation, so it's you and I. So this is going to be an interesting front stretch.
It's better than him dressed up like a girl in a ditch somewhere. So.
Oh dear Lord, that's a website.
Today we'll be talking in turn 4 with me in the infield report. Turn 3 we'll sit down with Snyder and talk about his road to recovery. Turn 2, Bud made up a new little Fast 5, the 5 stories that are dominating the NASCAR world. But before we get to this is Turn 1 brought to you by the Auto Connection in Lincoln at 21st and P Street. Preventative maintenance is the key to keeping you on the road and saving you money. Let the fine staff at the Auto Connection give your car a once-over and make sure you're not headed for a costly repair. Fixing the problem before it becomes a problem will make sure that there are no related failures with your car. Give Kevin and the crew a call today at 402-477-8200. Bristol, I loved it. I really did. I loved the race yesterday.
You know, last night was the first time I got to see a NASCAR race in its entirety from start to finish. And, you know, with them wanting to mill down the outside lane, the 2 degrees there, you know, they just milled it, and they wanted to bring the racing into the middle to the bottom groove. And what I thought Jeff Gordon said it best, and he was chuckling, and he goes, it's completely backfired, and we're running on the outside wall. And honestly, I'm like, this is cool, because it reminded me of going to I-80 or Eagle and watching all these cars run on the high line and getting those incredible runs off the corners. And we saw some 3-wide racing coming off the corners. And I seriously thought in some ways the old Bristol was back. You could run 3 different grooves, 3 different lines, you know, and it was just great. I mean, it was awesome.
I thought it was great as well. I mean, we saw a couple times, a few guys, Casey Kane late in the race could run the bottom really well. Kyle Busch was on the bottom well, but I mean, it was right next to the wall. And I mean, they slip a little bit and they were tagging the wall, kind of like when the oil spill happened.
Oh, yeah. You know, a driver I got to give props to right away. You know, is about the first 50 laps or so. Casey Mears, where did he come from? I mean, he
started on the pole.
Well, yeah, he started on the pole, but for the first, you know, at Bristol, you could be leading a lap, and within 3-4 laps, you could be running 6 or 7. There's so much passing and so much action going on that Casey Mears to be running up there, you know, with the big guys, you know, and then late in the race, he fell back and ended up being a lap down, which we'll get into that here in a little bit. But, you know, I thought Casey Mears looked really good. Keselowski, yeah, you know, he's Kezo. But, you know, it was a great race.
I'd say honestly, I think deep down, Jimmy Johnson with the nose being all beat up was a very fast car.
Oh, yeah.
I think Casey Kane was the fastest car all night. If he didn't tag the wall there, I really think he would have won the race.
But to me, the highlight of the race, Old Smoke. Vintage Smoke.
In Kansas. His hands were completely turned inside the vehicle. I mean, I saw the whole thing coming right when it did, but then when he's throwing the helmet, and then Danica, I mean, he had all of his cars get wrecked out. Newman, Stewart, and Danica all got wrecked out.
An expensive night for Smoke.
Well, you know, that happens sometimes. But it might have been really expensive for him now.
No, let me ask you, did the fans like seeing Smoke's reaction?
Oh, they probably loved it.
I mean, that was vintage Smoke.
That was back in the day, Tony Stewart, and I'm happy he did it. I really am, because we needed something. And he's been acting that way lately anyway, that he's going to start parking cars, and that's basically what he was trying to do.
How much of that do you think is in relation to the fact that he's not at the very top of the points right now? And even, you know, in turn 4, when we have you break down the points and where we're at with that, you know, right now they're talking he could be a possible wild card as of right now. And, you know, is that really weighing on his mind? Does that help fuel the anger there?
I think it's more or less that he's had so much trouble with his other cars and himself just spending a lot of money this year compared to everything else. I mean, being an owner is way different than just being a driver. You don't have to worry. You can wreck anything you want if you're a good enough driver. But now that he's spending so much, I think that's starting to bother him more.
Well, let's ask our fearless leader, Dan, what do you think? Okay.
He knows. We figured he would know. Carl Edwards. What'd you think about him yesterday? He was leading the race, drills Hamlin after he passes him, but I don't know what happened. Did tire go down? Did you hear anything?
I didn't hear anything. I noticed that, but it seems like Hamlin got into Carl once. They got
him in the corner.
Yeah, they kept getting into each other just a little bit. But I thought it was really great to see Carl actually run up front, run strong, look good. I think the lucky dog card goes to Hamlin, because I think they said it best last night in the pits under that caution flag when he was in the pits. I can't remember which car it was. It came up and actually hit him in the right front. And when they hit him in the right front, they said it actually made his car faster after that pit stop. And I was like, in these Cup cars, they have so much traction, so much downforce going around the high banks of Bristol that, you know just as well as I do in our dirt cars, anybody can be fast down the straightaways, but the racers are won in the corners. So when your Ackerman, your caster camber, your toe out and all that thing, makes your car that much faster in the corners, when that right front guy hit, did they inadvertently help Hamlin? I thought that was a great point that I wanted to bring up.
Well, I saw, what I really would have liked to see a yellow there and see what Jimmy and Jeff could have done, because those two would have tag teamed, and I think they would have blown right past Denny. He was definitely the fastest car, but Jimmy's whole nose was completely beat in. They talk about these cars don't work that way when you barely get scuffed, and you just saw it. Jimmy proved it to us right there. He's still one of the fastest guys, and probably going to be a points champion here later this year.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me to see him, running for his 6 points title this year. But yeah, with that beat up car, he was definitely the class of the field. So what else you got for us this morning?
I got a simple question to ask you, and tell me what you think. We talked about it before the show even started, but did the $1 million design, did it work? Do you think it helped? I saw it looked like there were butts in every single seat at Bristol. Finally, again, last time there was nobody there. This time I think they filled it to see, but I think it worked.
Well, I saw the reports last night on jski.com, and it was 145,000. Last year's attendance was 146, so we're still about 10,000 people down. What I seen on TV was the stands were full all the way across the board. I think the $1 million job, it was a $1 million dream. It worked. To me, it worked. It was a fun, entertaining race. We didn't see the multi-car pile-ups, but I seen a lot of Saturday night short track racing, and that's what it was. That's what was fun about it. You seen the bump and runs. You seen the Stewart, or not the Stewart, but the Edwards get into the Hamlin get in. Yeah, you saw all kinds of different things. You just didn't see the multi-car pile-ups, but really, with the way the races were last night, and having that top line milled, the outside 2 degrees, that was awesome. Just to see him run to the outside wall. Like I said, it's like going to I-80 or Eldora or Eagle or somewhere and watching the guys putting that right rear quarter panel up on the wall, and getting the run off the high side. It worked great.
I really think I'd like to see that bottom coming a little bit better. It used to be everybody was around the bottom of Bristol, and that's what they said they're going to try to get back again, because earlier this year, kind of that middle was really fast. And there was only a couple times. Casey Kane late in the race was coming like a house on fire when he was running the bottom, and he was fast. Kyle Busch could run it. Clint Boyer could do the bottom, but not everybody could. And I really wish we could figure out how to get the bottom back so that they could pass a little bit easier instead of hitting them going into the corner.
Yeah, but the one thing I saw last night was, and I don't know if you noticed this, but you would see a transition where the guys would run the bottom, then they'd move to the outside. They'd come back to the bottom, they'd go to the outside. And I saw that. There was just a handful of cars that really wanted to run that bottom side. And with the cars having so much grip and so much traction, so much power, it was really hard to stay on that bottom and get the run coming off the corners, whereas the high side really helped you. But, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, if you think, in my opinion, I don't like going to a racetrack and watching, as we call follow the leader racing around the bottom. I want to see the cars go to the middle, to the outside, and make those runs off the lower line cars.
Well, Denny Hamlin wins the race. Jimmy Johnson gets second. Jeff Gordon third. Brian Vickers was fourth. Brian Vickers, I want to tell you one thing. He was fast all night, too. I loved watching Brian Vickers. We'll get back to him. Marcos Ambrose, another sweet top 5 for him. Kyle Busch 6th. Clint Boyer 7th. Logano 8th, a well-deserved 8th. Casey Kane 9th. Paul Menard 10th. Truex 11th. Dale Jr. 12th. Then a couple of guys that did not make the top 10 there was Stewart 27th after getting into a wreck with Kenseth, who got 25th. Keselowski, 30th, no big deal to me.
No.
And the Biff, 19th. But Brian Vickers, he was very fast. And last time we were at Bristol, I think he got like second or third, or did he?
Something like that.
Yeah, he got like second or third last time. Brian Vickers was really a class of the field.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I want to go back to Jimmy Johnson having that beat up front end. And one of the announcers said last night, the aerodynamics at Bristol are not as important as what they are at the super speedways. Well, that's just common sense right there. But still, a lot of the times when you see a beat up front end on a car, how many times is it really running up front first, second at Bristol? It's not. So I still say, I think the class of the field may have been Jimmy Johnson. He started way in the back of the field, comes all the way up with a beat up race car. Brian Vickers is close. He's right there, almost on the same level as Jimmy Johnson last night. Brian Vickers, I mean, we've always said, with Harvick, it's where'd you come from, Harvick? Well, where in the world did you come from, Vickers?
I was thinking about that with Ambrose. I mean, a top 5 at a Bristol?
Yeah, but look at Ambrose. Ambrose in the last 2 or 3 weeks hasn't really looked all that bad either.
No,
he's
great.
Really stepped it up a lot. Another car, the 43. I was looking last night, in the first half of the race, I'm like, what's the 43 doing up here? I didn't know somebody invited him to a NASCAR race.
Well, besides he did his wreck, but yes, he was pretty fast up there yesterday.
Alrighty.
This is Turn 1, brought to you by the Auto Connection in Lincoln at 21st and P. Preventative maintenance is the key to keeping you on the road and saving you money. Let the fine staff at Auto Connection give your car a once-over and make sure you are not headed for a costly repair. Fixing the problem before it becomes a problem will make sure that there are no related failures to your car. Give Kevin and the crew a call today at 402-477-8200. Well, Turn 1 is over. Denny Hamlin wins the race. Turn 2 is just around the corner. We will break down the Fast 5, the 5 stories that are dominating the NASCAR world. This is the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
This is the Front Stretch on AM 590, brought to you by Joe's Karting, online at joeskarting.com.
Welcome back to the Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting here on Omaha's ESPN Radio 590 AM. Let's get back into it. The Fast 5 heading into Turn 2 in the Fast 5 on the Front Stretch. Story 1, with Penske says Logano, a candidate for the number 22 ride. We've been talking a lot about this here lately, and, Dan had, he's not here today, and he had, 5 stories that he wanted us to get into, but after Bristol last night, I was right back on jski.com, and I wanted to look at these stories. So I thought, here's some good stuff. The owner of Penske Racing acknowledged on Saturday that Joey Logano is a candidate to drive the number 22 in 2013. Roger Penske also didn't rule out expanding from 2 to 3 cars, and including Sam Hornish Jr., who has been in the number 22 since A.J. Allmendinger was suspended and ultimately released for violating NASCAR's substance abuse policy in the mix for the next season. Penske said he hoped to have a decision by September 16th Chase Opener at Chicagoland. Sources close to the situation said Logano, who is in the final year of his contract with Joe Gibbs Racing, is the front runner for the number 22. Logano told ESPN.com recently he has 2 offers for 2013, and one was from JGR. The issue at Joe Gibbs Racing is finding a full-time sponsor. He's obviously a candidate, but there's other good people, too, that people haven't talked about, Penske said before the Sprint Cup race at Bristol Motor Speedway. We have a couple of rabbits. Penske would not expand on other potential candidates. Penske didn't rule out an Alliance Truck Parts, which sponsors Hornish's Nationwide car, could move up to Cup in 2013. This is kind of big.
Well, we talked about Logano's going to be one of them there, and I mean, yesterday he really proved himself. Sam Hornish Jr. is not the driver Logano is, and a lot of the guys that are probably asking for the job turning their resumes in to Penske. I mean, I would really like to see Logano somewhere in the Sprint Cup Series, and if it's a 22 car, so be it.
Well, okay, right now, Sam Hornish in Cup, if I had to pick, I'm going to take Logano over Sam Hornish. But if you look at the number of starts that Sam Hornish has in a Cup car versus the number of starts that Logano has in a Cup car, obviously we'd be going back to the early days of Logano. How would you size them up side by side?
Has Sam Hornish ever won a Sprint Cup race? That's how I size it up right there. Has he ever been close to the top 15, 20 in points? I mean, it's...
Yeah, but does he have the long, stable history in Cup that Logano has with the same team, building that relationship? To me, it would be like, okay, Harvick. Okay, Harvick went to Dale Earnhardt Racing. Okay, so does Dale Earnhardt have, or not Dale Earnhardt, but does Harvick have big shoes to fill, with the passing of Dale Earnhardt? That's what I'm looking at, going, okay, well, Logano's done pretty decent. He's not setting the world on fire by my opinion, by no means, but he's done pretty decent. Hornish comes in, he's getting his feet wet. He's been there before, but he's not really a long-term driver. Give the guy a little bit of a break, a little bit of a learning curve there. And that's what I'm getting at. I don't know if Logano's the best fit for the 22. I still stick to my guns and think that Sam Hornish would be the best fit for that 22. He's got a long history. Yeah, it might be in the Indy cars, but he'll learn in the Cup Series. He'll get some more experience. He's not a rookie in it by no means, but he'll get more experience. I mean, all I know is when I look back at the short history that Hornish has in a Cup car versus the first year that Logano had in a Cup car, I think Hornish is better.
Well, you got to think of it this way. You got to think it as Roger Penske. You're sitting in his shoes right now. Joey Logano's sitting open right now. That's like a star quarterback sitting there and not at a football team. You're going to pick him up. You got to do it. I mean, they got to have him. Sam Hornish ain't going to sell near as many T-shirts as Joey Logano is, and Sam Hornish ain't going to win near as many races as Joey Logano will. And I think Logano's a better fit for the 22 ride.
What's more important, Sam Hornish picking up a paycheck and bringing some money to Penske, or Logano selling T-shirts?
Well, I think Logano would have bigger paychecks anyway. I think so. I think he'd win and run more top fives and top tens. I mean, we just saw it again last night. Logano with an eighth place finish, and Hornish, I think what'd he do, running the wall?
That might be. So why don't you go ahead and take the next one?
Number 2, Edwards and Shell. A bit of speculation that bears watching in the next few weeks concerning Carl Edwards. This is one unconfirmed report that Ford executives who remember played a key financial role in keeping Edwards from jumping to Toyota last summer. Edwards into the Shell Pennzoil sponsored car in 2013. How that might play out is unclear. Shell Pennzoil is Roger Penske's sponsor. And now that Edwards and Shell are hooking up, that'd be a Ford team. What do you think? I mean, this kind of is the same thing as before because Sam Hornish is a Pennzoil car, and now Edwards might take him. I mean, Edwards is Mr. Good Guy. Cousin Carl. Oh, yeah. Everybody loves him. Everybody wants him to be their spokesperson. But I mean, now the 22 car might not even have their main sponsor. They don't even know who their driver is. This is getting a little mixed up here.
Yeah, and our fearless leader, Dan, he's not here. He's always bringing us these Fast Five, but then when I saw this last night, I was like, oh no, we got to talk about this. I have mixed feelings about it. Carl Edwards, right now for team owners, car owners, whatever, he has got to be the go-to guy that you want in your car when it comes, and Dan has said this many, many weeks now. Sponsorship and image is everything in NASCAR.
It is. I mean, we're so low on money, it is.
And Cousin Carl is the marquee driver to help bring dollars into your organization they'll talk to him in the middle of a race and they're like, what are you going to do tonight after the race? Oh, I'm going to go to stop the Subway and go get me a 12-inch, foot-long sub, and then I'm going to run over to Fastenal, get me some nuts and bolts and go screw something together, and he's great like that. The only thing I don't understand is Pennzoil leaving Penske? That was a little odd. I could see Cousin Carl going to Penske or Cousin Carl going to any major sponsor, but I see Penske in the back of my head, and I'm thinking Pennzoil. I mean, I just see that. So I think there's more to this story that needs to be watched. This kind of came out of the left field.
It's another one of them silly season things that's going to happen. And we've already talked about how many crazy stuff's been going on this off season, and this is just another one they're throwing in the loop. I mean, who knows? We might have a Dodge Pennzoil car next year with Jeremy Mayfield driving it. You never know.
Wow, with Mayfield driving it.
You just about fell over on your seat right there.
I'd rather put Dan Taylor in a Cup car than Mayfield.
We got to get him to get around Joe's karting a little bit quicker first.
Well, he's got to break the 30-second lap or 30-second lap barrier first. So, alrighty, Bain disappointed he didn't get Cup ride. Number 21, Trevor Bain admitted Friday at Bristol Motor Speedway he has mixed emotions about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. being Matt Kenseth's replacement at Roush Fenway Racing because he believes they both deserve a NASCAR Sprint Cup Series ride. At first, they said that Stenhouse in the 17 next year. I was a little bit bummed out because I wanted them to come to me and say, hey, we're going to run you full-time in a Cup car with a fourth team, and that didn't happen. Bain said, but when I did find out I was running nationwide and I thought about it, I thought that's probably a good decision to go out there and get that first full season under our belt in that series. I haven't gotten to points racing. I haven't gotten to go points racing, and I think it would be better to get that under our belt before we go to that Cup level. When it's going to be even tougher to do that and get that experience, Bain believes Stenhouse move into the number 17 Ford is a great opportunity for his teammate. At the same time, I can't wait to get my opportunity in Cup, Bain continued. I think we could run competitively there every weekend. We do that even with the Wood brothers part-time, but I've just got to be patient in the meantime for that. Team co-owner Jack Roush has already said he planned to field a full-time nationwide team for Bain in 2013. Bain also plans to continue driving for a limited Sprint Cup schedule for the Wood brothers. Bain said the only way he would consider a move to Penske Racing would be if Roush told him it was an option. Being under contract, there is no way I would go talk to another team or do anything like that at this point, the 21-year-old Bain said. The more Ford teams, the better, but I don't know if that changed opportunities for me or not. I think this is a case of a young, accomplished driver, and I don't even know if I would say accomplished. He's good. For as young as he is, he's a Daytona 500. You're not going to be a slouch and win the Daytona 500. He's a Daytona 500 winner. Has he set the world on fire? Not yet, but look at how young this guy is. He's only 21. I think the guy's got a lot of drive, a lot of potential in him, and I think right now what we're seeing is a young star, really eager, really hungry to go points racing and have a full-time ride and be established. I think he wants a schedule, a career like a Kenseth, a Stewart, a Logano. He just wants to be a driver with a team with a multi-year contract and be secure. What do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, it's 100% correct. I think what he's trying to say is I've been here longer than Stenhouse has, and neither of them have been there long at all. And he goes, "Let me go to it first. I won the 500. He didn't win a thing yet." And it's one of those things that I think it's not jealousy, but it kind of is. And I see where he's getting at. Look at me. I need a ride with. How many people have a car open next year? I mean, they could be anywhere. He could go to any team next year. There are so many open. He could be potential 22 driver next year. We have no idea. I mean, it's close.
And the one thing when we were watching Bristol last night, actually it wasn't even during the Bristol race, it was during qualifying at work when I was watching qualifying. They said NASCAR drivers, and I actually think this relates to a lot of us dirt trackers also. We are the most insecure people in a lot of ways because we want to be told that we're good. We need to be told that we're good. And I think there's a little bit of that with Trevor Bain right now. So why don't you go ahead and go into the next one there?
Now, I'm going to throw an audible here. I want to talk about this one that Keselowski wasn't calling Hendricks a cheater. Brad Keselowski stressed Thursday night that he wasn't accusing Hendricks Motorsports of cheating with his comments last week at Michigan International Speedway. Keselowski said last week that some teams were using some tricks with rear suspensions on their cars and working within a gray area of the NASCAR rulebook. He said his Penske Racing team has been reluctant to push the envelope in such areas over fear of getting caught cheating. Keselowski said he took great care not to mention Hendricks Motorsports by name last week and has spent the last week on Twitter trying to clarify any misunderstandings. Other competitors in recent weeks have alluded to an advantage Hendricks teams may have with the way they are setting up the rear of their cars. Keselowski talked to the media Thursday night during an unveiling of the retro paint scheme to honor former Penske driver Rusty Wallace's 50th career victory. Keselowski insisted that he wasn't accusing anyone of cheating. He quotes, "I didn't appreciate how those words were twisted into calling out the specific team. I made it to a point to not call out a specific team, and I think I said it in a sense. There is a half a dozen to a dozen cars that are running those things, and with the exception of maybe the TV broadcast, I hadn't pointed out which ones they were."
Okay, whatever, Keselowski.
He's such a baby, isn't he?
I'm telling you. And the last story, and it's kind of funny that you threw out that audible because NASCAR has now come out and said those rear-end housing devices are in fact legal.
I mean, we tried to mix these two together here, and we obviously are yuppies just like Dan was. But, I mean, yeah, they did come out and they made it legal now. I mean, Keselowski must have cried enough to get what he wants like normal, but...
I lost a lot of respect from Keselowski. He didn't come out right and specifically say the 48, but he did mention some names, and he did point the direction in a certain way. And to me, it was just, it's a stock car driver that got beat at his own game. He got tired of it. He's going to huff and puff and whine and cry, and,
It's Keselowski.
Yeah. So, I mean...
Well, the flagman is giving us a signal for halfway done. So, I mean, turn 3 is just around the corner. We sat down with Stu Snyder earlier this week and talked to them about his road to recovery. That and so much more is just 2 minutes away. This is the Front Stretch presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
You're listening to The Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio. Brought to you by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Online at joeskarting.com.
Welcome back to The Front Stretch. This is Turn 3, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. And I know it's a little weird to hear my voice all of a sudden after these guys have more than likely been trashing me for the last 2 breaks.
Yep.
But we sat down with Stu Snyder on Wednesday night when I was still available. But as of the time this is airing, I'm probably still drunk. So you guys can have fun getting up and worrying about the show, and I'm going to be drunk. But anyways, Stu Snyder on the phone with us tonight. This morning, Stu, thank you so much for joining us, and I know it comes from a big racing community. We say we're really glad that you're able to join us this morning and you're okay after your accident.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to be able to join you guys, too. There for a while, we didn't know the outlook of what was going to happen, but back on my feet and on the road to recovery. So
that's great. That is absolutely great. Can you walk us through that night, what happened, what led up to it, and what you do remember after that?
I guess probably one of the last things I remember, I come down the front stretch and pulled a little bit of a wheel stand and went through 1 and 2, and the car felt really good. It was fast. We were getting past some of those USAC guys, and then I went to set the car into turn 3, and the next thing I remember seeing was the dirt over the top of the hood, and the car rocked over on the right front and high-sided, and then the very next thing I guess I remember bits and pieces of the helicopter ride over to Kansas City Medical. But that's pretty much all I can tell you about the accident. They said I went over 5 or 6 times and it collapsed the cage. The cockpit pretty much collapsed around my seat, and that's pretty much where my injuries started, to come into play there. So, and
I'm kind of piecing some stuff together via Facebook and posts from people. After that, I know it wasn't too much longer. You were up and walking around and feeling pretty good.
Yeah, it was about a day and a half later. Once I got to Kansas City, I had my brace and everything on, pretty much from my waist up to the top of my head to hold my neck and my head and my back all straight. But it was about a day and a half, and I was up walking again and giving the nurses some hell. But it wasn't too long after. So
they started calling you Cole Trickle.
Yeah, pretty much.
It took us quite a while to make a Days of Thunder reference on the front stretch.
Leave it to Superman Stu Snyder to help out with that.
There you go.
I was hoping they were going to give me a wheelchair that had wheels high enough where I could get a hold of them. I could race myself out of the hospital, but they wouldn't even let me do that.
Oh, that's no fun.
Stu, with today being the 26th, kind of give us an update. How are you doing now? Obviously, you're doing better. Thank God you're with us. You're talking. Just kind of give us a rundown and, how things are right at the present moment with you.
Well, we took a trip out to Eagle on Saturday just to get me out of the house and to see the fans and stuff like that. And I pretty much the worst part of the whole deal is getting up in the morning. The first couple hours, once I wake up, everything's super stiff and super sore, and it's pretty painful there for a couple hours. And then I can pretty much get to moving around and walking out to the race shop and just kind of hanging out there with the crew and everything. They're hanging out with those guys and makes it a lot better, I guess. It kind of put the pain behind you and just deal with it at that time. So,
with that being said, I was at Eagle Raceway this last Saturday night, and they did a pass the helmet in honor of you. Now, being down in the pits, I didn't know what the total was, but do you have any idea how much Eagle and the fans were able to gather for you?
Well, from there, I guess a grand total from the Get Well Soon T-shirts that Shakers Gentlemen's Club was nice enough to get made for me, and then the passing of the helmets, and then also they had that $1,000 change pickup for the little kids on the front stretch. I think, most of those little kids ended up giving me the stuff they picked off the front stretch. So the total with just the coins alone from the little kids was $125. And then the helmets, I think the helmet was like $1,700 or something like that. So, and then a grand total when we went to the bank to deposit it into my benefit account was $3,800 just from Saturday night from selling T-shirts. And not only did they pass the helmets there at Eagle Raceway, Joel Fritz and Tyler Dunkel and a lot of the mini sprint guys last weekend at pretty much every track they ran last weekend, they passed the helmets for almost a total of $600 too. So it's pretty neat to realize how many people can stand behind you at one time in the racing family. I mean, there was people that we didn't even really knew much about me or about my racing career, nothing, and everybody. I mean, racing's a whole big family, and that just proves it.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've noticed. I mean, I've gotten into this dirt track community just in the last year, and I mean, the support behind when a driver needs your help, fans step up, and that's something I don't see happen in any other sport, in any other community. So it's great to see that is there.
You know, Stu, you're talking about your racing career. I think it's safe to assume that, while it may not be tomorrow or next week, at some point in time down the road, we will see the Superman back behind the wheel of a winged sprint car. Obviously, I would assume that this year's done for you. Are you looking for a return to the track next year in 2013?
We're already working towards it. The crew and Dad and Eldon and Paula Roden and our sponsors are already backing us. And as long as I'm willing to go do it, they're all here and ready to go do it. And I'm already. We got the new car sitting here ready to go. Wayne Lewis is building us another motor. It's looking to shape up to where 2013 we're going to be able to go race a bunch of different racetracks and go back after another ASCS points championship, because right now we're leading the thing, but I'm not going to be able to race the rest of this year. So we pretty much handed that one down to either Jack Dover or Jordan Boston. So.
Well, if you had to pick one, if you had to pick one of the drivers, who are you hoping for?
Well,
putting you on the spot here.
I guess I gotta say Jack Dover. He's one of my best friends and everything else, but he's enough of them. I guess it'd be all right to Jordan pick up the championship too. But they're both good competitors, and every night you got to worry about one of them trying to contend for the win or whatnot. So it'd be kind of cool to see either one of them win the thing, I guess.
We don't. Dan, Andrew, you and I, Stu, nobody wants to see anybody in this sport get hurt. The one thing I've learned, and Stu and I last week were laughing about this. Stu has actually met my mom, and she has her own pet nickname for Stu, and it's Shoes, because when you see Stu Snyder walking through the pitch, he's like, how all of you boys go drive all these race cars and you're dirty, dusty, greasy, slimy, nasty, and look at Stu over there. He's got shoes that just came off of a shelf. I mean, those are the brightest white shoes I've ever seen. He sticks out, and even she tells me, "Oh, I didn't come here," or she's actually told Stu before, "I don't come here to watch my son. I come here to watch you." So with that being said, it is great to hear you up and running. It's great to hear that you're going to be back to the track. They don't call you Superman just to call you Superman. I mean, you really, really impressed everybody, and we're thankful that you're alive and you're not more seriously hurt than what you were. And we all here at the Front Stretch would like to say good luck and move forward and Godspeed, and bring home some more checkers.
Yeah, well, that's our plan next season, I guess. As soon as I get this brace off of me, I was actually telling Eldon and Paula, they come over on Sunday to hang out with me all day. I told Paula if I was healed up by October, there's a show down in Little Rock, Arkansas at the Short Track Nationals. She told me I couldn't go because they were putting a roof on her house that weekend. So we couldn't go race, but I don't think I'd be completely 100% healed by then. So it's better to be 100% healed. That way next year we can go at it and not have to worry about the injuries or something like that.
Is there any apprehension as far as getting back in the car after an accident like that and what you experienced? Is there some apprehension kind of sitting down there and maybe just a little bit more nerves, an upset stomach, something like that?
I don't really know. I had a massive head injury back in 07, and I just strapped right back in like it. I mean, it's our job, I guess, to go out there and do it. And I guess if you have an apprehension, probably going to be worse for you as a driver because you're constantly going to worry about that out there on the racetrack, and it could possibly hinder your performance or something, and maybe you'd get upside down again. So I guess the way that I look at it, I guess it's a good thing that I don't remember any of the crash. I just remember the aftermath of the injury and having to heal and everything else. So I know I can tell you right now, if I didn't have that brace on, I'd be in Cameron August 31st, racing the next points race.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to talk to you a little bit. Several months ago, the first time I actually got to meet you, I sat down at Eagle and talked with you. You got the opportunity to race with Tony Stewart. He came down and ran a special race. Talk to us a little bit about what was that like. I know you gave him a damn good run for your money, and honestly, I think that if it wasn't for lap traffic, you'd have had him.
Yeah, definitely. I think the lap traffic there, we had a couple cars hold us up getting in on turn one with the momentum that we had. That pretty much ended up costing us the race. We got back to his rear bumper there again with about 2 to go and had the same thing happen. I mean, and which was, kind of surprising. Usually I'm pretty good in lap traffic, but it just one of those deals. Me and Tony got to racing, and I mean, it's just like racing another competitor when you're racing him. He wouldn't race me any different than he does Jeff Gordon. As soon as he puts his helmet on and I put my helmet on, or anybody, I guess, racing sprint cars against him, as soon as we put our helmets on, it's just another race to him, just like it's a race to us. But, I still kick myself in the butt for losing that deal. And maybe they're looking back on it and watching the video as many times as I have, hoping that the outcome was going to change. Maybe that there should have been a time where I should have just went in there and moved the lap car or something like that. But, I've never raced like that. But it was still a lot of fun to be able to race against him and be that competitive and know that I know there was one pass he made off of me coming off turn 4. He took the lead, and I went above him going into turn 1 and went above the cushion that he knew I was there. And I was there to try and win that race over him. So it's definitely cool and especially to be able to talk to the man just like he's a normal Eagle fan or a normal driver that had been racing Eagle all year.
Was there a little bit of extra motivation to try to, kind of, God, this is Tony, this is a big NASCAR champion behind me. I want to push a little bit harder, or was it just every other race, you're always pushing your hardest to win?
Yeah, I pretty much push my hardest to win every race that we can run, just because of the support that we got behind us with everybody. But there was a little bit extra that night, I guess you could say, when we knew where I was starting and I knew where he was starting. I knew he was going to be a factor there at some point in the race. I didn't really expect to get to lap traffic as quick as we did, but as soon as we did, that was the main thing that was going to win that race, was the lap traffic. And with Tony being the veteran racer that he is, I knew it was going to be tough to hold him behind me. But we tried as hard as I know I pushed that car as hard as I could the last 10 laps of that feature, and lap traffic just kind of bit us there a little bit.
Well, Stu, we're just about out of time here. We greatly appreciate you sitting down and joining us. How can people get a hold of you? How can people, if there is still donations available to be made, where can they do that at? And when can we see you next?
They can go to my Facebook at just Stuart Snyder and message me, whether they want to just talk or chat or look at getting some T-shirts or something. But also, if you want to make donations to the hospital funds and stuff like that, contact the Steve King Foundation, and they can get you your money or whatnot is complete tax write-off through those guys, and then they send me up the check from all the proceeds and all the donations and stuff like that. But I think hopefully, if I'm ready to race, we're going to try and go down to the Devil's Bowl sometime in March down in Dallas, Texas next year. Will probably be one of our first shows, and then we'll hit the Midwest ASCS tour pretty strong next year also, and pretty much just big money shows. I wish Eagle still had a good 360 show, but with the 305 stuff, they're going to try and change, and we can't really afford to have 3 engines or 2 engines. We have a hard enough time keeping 1 or 2 of them together all year. So I hope that works out for him, but you'll see us at Eagle if there's an ASCS show.
Stu, thanks so much for joining us. Again, just to say it, just because you can't say it enough, we're so happy you're able to walk away and everything's going good for you. Wish you the best of luck for the rest for your road to recovery, and we can't wait to see you back out on the track.
All right, thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Stu.
Yeah.
Thanks, Stu.
Thank you.
Stu Snyder, driver of the 23S. The 23S sprint car involved in an accident on August 6th. Good to see he's okay, or good to hear that he's okay, and good to see him up and around, and that he's not going to have any kind of prolonged issues. So it's great to see him. I know I had a heck of a time watching him that night at Eagle when he was running with Tony Stewart, and I mean, as big of a Tony Stewart fan as I am, I was kind of hoping for the little guy to win.
Actually, didn't he lead a good part of that race?
He led all, but I think probably 5 laps of it.
Yeah, Tony had to work to beat Stu Snyder.
Yeah, there was a point in the race when you thought, he's not going to catch him. He's not going to catch him, but just like Stu said, and just like I talked about, it was that lap traffic that he broke all of his momentum, and Tony was just able to go by him on the low side, and Stu made his way back up with a couple to go, but again, lap traffic caught him.
Andrew, I want to ask you something. You've raced against some of the big boys, the Clint Boyers, the Carl Edwards, and the late models. Even if those guys were to beat you, if you're a local guy and you run second to that, how is that, does it suck that you finished second to those guys, or can it actually be considered kind of an honor to be running second to somebody like that?
Well, it is and it isn't. I want to say real quick that the year that they came to the track, that was year Bill was winning a lot of big races, and I was out there running, and I don't even remember Clint passing me, but he did. And we were going like 3 wide. He must have got around me, and it was like I was so mad about Bill beating me more than I was about him. It's just another driver out there, just like Stu said. It's really no big deal. But, it's awesome to stand next to the guy. But when you're racing with him, you don't think nothing of it.
I was actually standing next to Carl Edwards, and I didn't realize until your dad, Joe, said, "Bud, look behind you." And I looked over, and Carl's one of my dad's favorite drivers, and I was like, "Oh, hey, Carl. How you doing?"
Turn 4 just around the corner. This is The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
This is The Front Stretch on AM 590, brought to you by Joe's Karting, online at joeskarting.com.
We are getting the signal of 1 to go as we head into Turn 4, salvaged by Kaziski Auto Parts. Looking for a quality used part to get your car or truck back on the road? Give the experienced salespeople at Kaziski Auto Parts a call today and let them find the right part to get your truck or car back in running condition. Call me or any other salespeople today at 402-731-4592 or stop by today at 50th and I Street in Omaha.
What's the hot item this week? Every week I want to ask you, what's a hot item? The temperatures are starting to cool down, so I would imagine the AC compressors have got to start.
The compressors are starting to slide a little bit. I couldn't tell you honestly right now. Batteries.
Really?
Batteries right now. And what we do is we get the lifetime warranty on batteries. So, everybody's coming in and getting them. If you're going to drive your truck forever and you need to get a battery, come buy one for $40 and you can just keep changing it.
$40 for a battery.
Forever.
For a lifetime warranty.
You bet.
Wow. First of all, I got to make sure my Dodge will last longer than 2 weeks.
Well, that's when you're Dodge. Then
you're speechless on that.
Well, Dan got his 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
He sounded beautiful. I think all the viewers might have shut the radio off right there, Dan, but it's okay. He's still probably cuddled up under a blanket right now.
Oh, yeah, with the missus under some big oak tree by the pond. They're feeding the ducks with a loaf of bread.
I just saw the picture of it right now, and I just about threw up in my mouth.
I'm telling you, it's like a bad 70s infomercial with love songs. I can just see, and we'll keep the missus's name out of this, so... But Dan and the missus, hand in hand, barefoot on the beach, feeding the ducks with some, moldy old bread. I mean, it's a beautiful thing.
Well, let's get back to what's important here instead of Dan walking around. Anyway, turn 4, Cup standings. We're getting a little bit closer to the chase again. Greg Biffle, your leader. Jimmy Johnson, second. Dale Jr., third. Matt Kenseth, fourth. Martin Truex Jr., fifth. Clint Boyer, sixth. Brad Keselowski, seventh. Denny Hamlin, eighth. Kevin Harvick is ninth. Tony Stewart, 10th. And Kane and Kyle Busch are the 2 wild cards right now, which I think that's close to where it's going to stay. I don't really see it changing. Gordon could pop off another win because he's been very fast, but I think Kane's in for sure.
You think Kane's in for sure?
Kane's in for sure because I think he's going to have a couple more wins the rest of the season. I've had him all season. Him and Jimmy Johnson, I've had them two since the beginning, are going to win the whole thing. But
I'll give you Kane. Kyle Busch, I think, is 60-40.
Yep.
60-40.
And the way
and
Carl ran
I
yesterday,
even give it 60-40. I'm thinking maybe more 40% chance of being in there. There's too much going on right now with the wild card. Actually, in my opinion, the race to watch is not the top 10. It's that wild card.
The wild card. That's what I've been watching every single week.
That is fun to watch. I mean, because every week it's 2 or 3 drivers. You think they're safe, then all of a sudden they're not safe. And now you got 2 or 3 new drivers, and then the drivers that are new will come next week. They're going to be out of the picture. So, I mean, that's the race to watch.
Well, I mean, Ryan Newman lost 2 spots yesterday after that wreck he had. I mean, he was up there in the mix. Carl Edwards might sneak his way in if Stewart has a problem and Kane has a problem because he's only like 30 points away from being 10th in points. And Marcos Ambrose, he pops another win off. He's right up there, and he's been running strong lately. It could be anybody in this wild card.
What would it be like if you saw Tony Stewart, who's sitting 10th right now in the points, if after Atlanta next week, he just kind of, finishes 23rd or so, and all of a sudden he's not in the top 10.
Even if he doesn't, he's got a wild card. He's got 3 wins. Nobody else is going to be able to get that, I don't believe.
Well, then Busch is out, and then you got Kane and Stewart for your wild card.
Kane and Stewart. And you never know. And if Cousin Carl sneaks his way in, I'm going to be shocked. He's had just a tough season, but he'd have to catch up to Kane first because Kane would be the next guy in 10th.
Edwards or Gordon?
Gordon.
You think Gordon?
I really think Gordon's going to win one here again soon. I really do. It's goofy. Hendricks is too good to let. They want all 4 guys.
Well, Gordon looked really, really, really good last night at Bristol.
And I wanted to yell. I think he was going to win. I think Jimmy would have figured something out.
Gordon has actually ran really, really good at Atlanta also, which I believe is the next track we're on deck with next week. And with him looking really good, him and Jimmy Johnson, it seems like Hendricks own Atlanta.
Oh yeah.
So right now, if you're Jimmy Johnson, you've got to clinch. Jimmy's in the chase. There's no way around it. So now does Jimmy Johnson take a step back and say, okay, look, we're going to go through the traffic together. Does he start helping his teammate and his car owner, Jeff Gordon?
I think he does, and I think he will. I think we're going to see more of that. He's going to trade off pushing, and Gordon's going to be the guy out in front instead of Jimmy. But I think when it gets to the chase, Jimmy's just going to be.
Himself.
I think Jimmy's just going to be dominant. But they got to get him to the chase first, and I think they're going to. I really think that when it's all said and done, what do we got? 2 weeks left, I think.
Yep.
It's going to be Kane. Well, Kane could sneak his way in, but I think Gordon might get a wild card. But he has to win a race, of course, to get that wild card.
There's one name on here that we haven't really talked about a whole lot this season. Harvick.
Where'd you come from, Harvick?
Yeah.
He's just hanging out in 9th right now in points. I mean, that's just how Kevin Harvick's always been.
List, and I'm thinking back through all the front stretch shows that we've done. We've talked about every single one of these drivers, but Harvick. But Harvick, he's got some issues going on with the crew chief right now in that car.
Well, what did he do? Did he get rid of him, or what was the deal there? He was something.
No, and we did call an audible back in turn 2 with a Fast 5, but I do want to read this out real quick. Read this out. Wilson out as crew chief for Kevin Harvick. The 2019 came to Bristol last night with the new old crew chief. Gil Martin, I believe I pronounced that right, made his return to the top of the 2019 pit box after replacing Shane Wilson earlier in the week. Richard Childress Racing stressed that they were doing this in an effort to shake up team chemistry. Martin was replaced as crew chief at Harvick's apparent urging after Homestead last year. Wilson is not out completely as crew chief, but this could just be a temporary change as the 2019 works to make the chase. So, do you think that there could be maybe a little bit of a chemistry issue there? I mean, Harvick, Yeah, it's great. I think the reason why Harvick's top 10 in points is because he's been in the races. When's the last time that you can remember Harvick finished 5th or better?
He always does, though. He just does, and we just never ever see it. I mean, you see right here. I guess he's only had 3 top 5s and 9 top 10s, which is the lowest out of anybody.
Yeah.
But he must be sitting 11th place every week.
Well, what happens if I go to ID Speedway in my sport mod in the points and I show up every week, whether I win, I'm 15th. Where am I going to be at in the top 10 if I make every single week? Well, I'm going to be in the top 10.
But these guys all run the top. I mean, they all run every single race. So that's a little different. But what I'm getting at is that when you're seeing, 3 top 5s there, he's made it to every NASCAR race. He's finished in the top 15 because we know he's not finished in the top 5 every week. So, with Wilson out as crew chief and you got Gil Martin, and I believe it's Gil Martin, if you see Gil coming back, what could this possibly do for Harvick in the chase? Could we see the old Harvick make a return aggressively back to run top 5? If he pops off a lot of top 5 consistently, he could be a top 3 driver in the chase. Well, I think they're doing just like the NFL does. They're putting in a backup quarterback right now to see who can lead the team going into the chase, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yep.
Okay, Jeff Gordon last night finishes 3rd. We've been talking about him. Is he going to make it? Is he not going to make it? What do you think?
I see Gordon being a lot like Stewart last year. Stewart. No. Hold on.
Crossing the line.
Oh, not really. To me, Stewart did not set the world on fire prior to the chase. Once the chase hit, to me, he set the world on fire. Now, will Gordon do what Stewart did in the chase? No, it ain't going to happen. I can see Gordon making the chase and doing quite a bit better. Is he going to pop off wins? No, I don't see it.
So is Stewart going to do what he did last year in the chase?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
I'd like to see Tony get back after that. Was pretty cool last year what was he saying to Carl Edwards? It was something like, he just kept beating him up basically the whole time. And he's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not slowing down. You better get faster, basically. And that was pretty cool.
Although, after watching what Stewart had to say about Kenseth last night, I could actually see Stewart maybe knocking out a couple, wins in the chase solely because, what the hell, let's just drive right over and through people after Kenseth's deal last night.
Well, and you know what? Kenseth didn't deserve what exactly happened, but he drove right in the side of him, and he just kept doing it, and that's not Matt Kenseth at all. So I thought that was pretty cool. 2 veteran drivers take each other out like that, and then Tony Stewart with the two-handed toss.
Yeah.
What's it, a $50,000 helmet he just threw right there after it's all said and done with the fines?
That goes to show that Tony's really getting out of shape because back in his younger days, he could have tossed that $50,000 helmet with one hand, and it was like a grandma tossing steroids. Like,
well, I wanted to see Danica throw it. I thought she was going to right there.
Danica actually impressed me last night, but Danica has got the world's biggest silverback gorilla on her back right now because every week, I can't remember the last time she actually physically, legitimately finished the race. It's been a long time because she gets wrecked every time she goes out in a Cup car. And that really scares me because with Newman signing back on with Stewart-Haas Racing, or with Patrick coming on to Stewart-Haas Racing, is this what Tony Stewart needs, is wrecked cars every week?
And that's why I said I think that's what his aggression's coming from right now. Is he's every single week there's cars getting wrecked, and Danica isn't helping by wrecking almost every single week, but it's one of those things. This is Turn 4, salvaged by Kaziski Auto Parts. Looking for quality used parts to get your car or truck back on the road? Give the experienced salespeople at Kaziski Auto Parts a call today and let them help you find the right part to get your car back on running condition. Call me or any other salespeople at 402-731-4592 or stop by 50th and I Street in Omaha. Well, green-white checker. Next week, we will preview the Advocare 500 at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And Bud thinks he might have a little secret of who might be the Turn 3 report, report. And he says he won't tell me who it is yet, but I think I might know who it is. Could be his little girlfriend there. Tune into Slinging Dirt. Turn into Slinging Dirt next Thursday, as we have Stan Caesar coming on board with us. Thanks to Stu Snyder for sitting down and talking to us about the road to recovery and plans for the future. And that does us for the front stretch. Thanks for joining us. And if you ever want to get a hold of us, just shoot us an email at thefrontstretch590@gmail.com or become a fan of the show on Facebook. For all of us here at the Front Stretch, I hope you enjoyed the show, and tune in next week. We'll see you at the track.
See ya.